is the flagship initiative of Naksh Foundation dedicated to promoting cyber awareness among people. Our collaborators, the Rotary Club of Young Visionaries, are engaged in several impactful initiatives such as annual pad donation drives, self defense training, skill development workshops, and creative social projects. They have been working selflessly for the past 10 years to create positive change in society. We live in an era where artificial intelligence is reshaping industries, solving complex problems, and unlocking possibilities once thought impossible. Yet, with this rapid progress comes pressing legal, ethical, and regulatory challenges. From data privacy and intellectual property disputes to concerns over bias, accountability, and misuse, the pace of AI's evolution is outstripping our laws. Today's session is about finding the balance, ensuring innovation thrives while safeguarding rights, ethics, and the public interests through thoughtful future ready regulations. We are fortunate to have with us Advocate Rajas Pingal sir, a leading cyber expert who has been working on the front line of fraud prevention and awareness. Thank you, sir, for joining and sharing your insights with our community. Before we begin, participants, we request you to keep your microphones on mute throughout the session to avoid any background noise. Keep your video turned off unless you are in proper setting. If you have any questions or queries, please drop them in the chat box. We will address them during the Q&A session. Participants kindly note that it is mandatory for all to fill our feedback form, which will be available 10 minutes before the end of session in order to eligible for the certificate of participation. Thank you for your cooperation. Now let's get started with today's session. Now it's my privilege to introduce and welcome our esteemed speaker, Advocate Rajas Pingal, for today's webinar on From Promise to Trap, Sorting Financial and Career Frauds. Advocate Rajas is a leading authority in cyber law and data protection with over 13 years of expertise in cyber litigation, compliance, and advisory. As a founding partner at NetLogic Legal Services LLP, Pune, since 2011, he has handled complex cases involving data theft, cryptocurrency fraud, money laundering, denial of service attacks, and identity theft. His strategic role in high profile
Hi, Sakshi. I'm afraid we can't hear you right now.
I think network broke, but I would love to, ma'am, if you can continue from here.
Sure, Risha. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Advocate Sadhvi Sharma, and I'm working as an associate with Advocate Rajas Pingle. And he is the founding partner of our firm, NetLogic Legal. And our firm has recently merged with another firm called Untangle Legal. So the new entity that has been formed is Rane Pingle Law Chamber, RPLC. And our other partner's name is Advocate Ronak Rani, who specializes in startup advisory. So Advocate Rajas has been mainly specializing in cybercrime and data protection and litigation and compliance work related to the same. He has done his BSL LLB from ILS Law College, and he's done his master's in cyber law from Manipal University in Bangalore. He has also been invited by the Rajya Sabha Committee, Parliamentary Committee, for examining the issues of cyber pornography, and he had shared his personal note on the same for possible amendments to the IT, Information Technology Act 2000. He has also appeared on several news channels to talk about his field of expertise. And he is unable to join us today because of a medical emergency, but I'll be taking over for this lecture in his stead. So, if someone could please share the presentation. Rishabh, could you please share the presentation that I had sent across to you?
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rishabh. So today's topic is balancing innovation and regulation, the cyber legal response to artificial intelligence. And in this lecture, we'll be analyzing AI governance against the backdrop of global regulatory frameworks. So we'll basically be looking at the Indian framework, which is more or less non-existent at the moment, the US and the EU frameworks, and the recent AI Act passed in Japan as well. So next slide, please. Okay. So let's begin at the grassroots level. What is AI? An AI system is basically a machine-based system that can operate on its own, on its own autonomy and adapt after deployment, and it can generate outputs like predictions or decisions without being prompted far too much. And a provider of such a system is an entity who develops the system and places it on the market. And then it is further deployed by an entity that uses that system further in its business operations. This is basically all been covered in the European Union's AI Act of 2024. The European Union has been an exception in bringing in a regulation for this, since most countries have still not made inroads in this domain. And we know that AI's meteoric rise in recent times has been equal parts an opportunity to harness technology like never before, but it's also been an ethical conundrum. The regulatory landscape has not kept pace with innovation, and there are several loopholes for exploitation. And I think if one keeps up with the news, you would know that there have been innumerable cases of misuse of AI. There's been generation of deep fakes, which can cause political and social unrest. There has been predictive policing, a rise. Sorry. Did anyone say anything? Okay. There has been a rise in predictive policing, which is discriminatory racial profiling of marginalized communities. There's been mass surveillance. I think we would have also all known about China's social credit system. There are cameras everywhere, and all citizens are monitored in a very big brother sort of setup. There are also gender and racial biases in hiring and healthcare because they're based on outdated and prejudiced data sets, amongst others. Therefore, there is an ethical responsibility placed upon all those who develop and deploy AI, as well as the regulators, to ensure that the final product, the final AI product, is not being misused. Currently in India, we do not have a law for AI. We are very pro innovation. We have a lot of recent innovations in the Maharashtra government as well. So the Maharashtra government has introduced Marvel, which is a specific special purpose vehicle to enable the state police force to carry out law enforcement more effectively using artificial intelligence. That's been there, that's been inculcated. We also have a partnership, a memorandum of understanding with Microsoft for a strategic partnership to establish 3 cutting edge AI centers of excellence in Mumbai, Pune, and Nagpur to accelerate the adoption of AI technologies within the state's administration. This will also help enhance criminal investigation processes, forensic data analysis, and evidence management. Furthermore, we also have Vadvani AI, which was launched in February 2018, if I'm not wrong, to develop AI related solutions in the areas of agriculture, healthcare, and financial inclusion, amongst others. So, we are being able to leverage a lot of AI tools in several domains, in several spheres of life, education, infrastructure, policing, all of that. But all this innovation without any regulation is going to create a lot of issues, as we'll see as we go ahead. Furthermore, we have the issue of deepfakes, which is becoming a rising problem especially amongst teenagers these days, because everyone our age and younger knows how to use AI. It's very easy to learn how to use it, especially for youngsters who've been born into that generation. I don't know if anyone would remember, but I think the incident that created the first uproar over deepfakes was Rashmika Mandana's post about the same, where a video of hers had been morphed with somebody else's body. And she rightfully so, she created a furor over it. And that really drew attention to the menace of deepfakes. So the issue here basically is if we regulate far too much, we're going to stifle innovation, we're going to nip it in the bud. And if we don't regulate it at all, there will be irreversible harm because of all the factors that I have mentioned and will be mentioning going forward. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Rishabh. So we have the DPDP Act of 2023, which is basically modeled on the GDPR, which has been formulated by the European Union. And this basically speaks about data collection and processing and who can collect data and what are the safeguards for the same. While this is comprehensive and it has fairly followed in the footsteps of GDPR, it does not really speak about anything pertaining to AI generated content. So there's a great paucity of regulation in that regard, even with the DPDP Act. And again, while we have the IT Act and the IT rules, which define intermediary liability, and Section 79 also speaks about the safe harbor exception for large social media intermediaries. The procedures that have been enumerated therein are not sufficient at present to tackle the menace of deepfakes and misinformation as is rampant today. Next slide, please. We also have a SEBI rulebook, which has proposed 5 points for security market operations, as well as the Kerala High Court ban on AI for judicial reasoning at the district court levels, which should ideally be followed strictly throughout India, but is currently only applicable to all courts in Kerala. And under no circumstances, according to the Kerala judgment, under no circumstances are AI tools to be used as a substitute for decision making or legal reasoning. It basically emphasizes on the fact that you can't compromise core judicial values like transparency, fairness, accountability, and confidentiality. There has to be human intervention. There has to be application of mind and a human mind, not a machine mind, if it can be said so, because in the interests of justice, equity, and good conscience, you cannot delegate such crucial decision making to a machine. And furthermore, since most AI services like ChatGPT and Gamma and Claude AI, they're all cloud based. So it would be a grave breach of confidentiality to input sensitive case data into such unapproved tools because there's sensitive personal information involved: age, name, gender, personal identifiers, sexual orientation, privileged communication. And that would be very violative of one's right to privacy under Article 21. So that brings in the Puttaswamy case as well. Next slide, please. So the gaps, to summarize, are basically that one, we don't have an AI regulation in place, and consequently, we have no risk classification system as is present in the EU. So the European system has three classifications: high risk, moderate risk, and low or no risk. And we such a system is the need of the hour here because we have a lot of innovation in place. We have a lot of startups who are working with AI, but we have no way of identifying or determining what item or what AI product poses how much risk to one's personal information or confidentiality. And with the amount of frauds happening in recent times, it's the need of the hour to have such risk classification systems. If you don't have these systems, then you're obviously going to operate in a vacuum and you're not going to have any liability for the same as well, because you don't have a way or a framework for determining responsibility, who is accountable to what extent, which is very crucial in this process. And since you're not transparent about these procedures, because there's no regulation in place mandating that transparency, you don't have any disclosure requirements for what data you're collecting. There's no consent management. You must have seen that you have cookies everywhere in these websites, and they say accept all, reject all, accept some, only necessary ones. So there's no awareness as such of what data is being collected, for what purpose it's being processed. And even though we do have the DPDPA, most companies and most individuals using products by these companies have no awareness of what it all entails. As a result of all of these factors, you're not able to enforce your rights. And as a result, you have no standpoint, you have no locus standi for being able to tell which right has been violated and to what extent and what compensation you deserve for the same. Next slide, please. Next slide. So I've mostly spoken about this already. Deep fakes we already know about. And I think there was a recent case where a class 10 boy was placed in remand for morphing photographs using AI of his female classmates as well as his teachers. So the rot in the system is very deep. And if unless we nip it in the bud, it's just going to take over. And mass surveillance. So this is very interesting because this is mostly an issue in China and the US. But recently, I do not know how many of you are aware, but the Dwarka Expressway has incorporated the first AI-powered traffic signal system, which is very good from the perspective of preventing traffic-related crimes. But at the same time, we have no control over how much data is being collected. You do not know at what point of time somebody might hack into that framework and use your details to either impersonate you or extort you. You also have these digital arrest scams happening where people are getting messages and calls purporting to be from the anti-terrorism squad or from the police and saying that, oh, you've been found to be guilty of receiving so and so money, and that has been found to be black money, or you have been implicated in such a scam, you are part of this scam, and so you have to pay this amount to get free of this allegation. And it goes on and on and on, and there's no end to it. And these people masquerade as police officers, and they also, yes, they masquerade as police officers, and they keep scamming innocent people who have no idea that half these things are AI generated. They do not know how to distinguish between some official notice from the police and a notice that has been just generated to look like it is from the relevant authorities. You also have investment scams and MLMs, multi-level marketing schemes that are fully AI generated. You have entire web hosting platforms that are created for the purpose of looking real and legitimate and making people trust them and invest money. And of course, they lose all of it because they do not have that discerning ability. Furthermore, biased predictive policing right now is not as much of an issue in India as much as it is in the US. But if we do not bring in regulations soon, it is something that could pose a problem here as well. Furthermore, one point that I wanted to touch upon is AI based hiring, because this is something that's become a recent trend. And you use AI tools to sift through CVs and resumes to find your ideal candidate, right? Because you want to cut down on the amount of time you take to select people. So imagine somebody with biased and outdated views about women and men and about how much they should be paid or whether they should be hired at all. So, such a program developed by such an individual may ignore, for example, female sounding names and prevent their candidature from going forward because of the prejudice that has been inbuilt into the program. You might also have disproportionate allocation of resources where you would be giving preferences to a certain race or a religion or a caste over another, which would further amplify societal discrimination. And another recent news item, which is from the US in the Trump era, ICE, which is their Immigration Detention Authority, has been found to have been rigging its risk classification assessment tool to prevent immigrants from being released on bond by eliminating the release option entirely. So the prejudice has just been inbuilt into that tool. You don't get an option, you don't even get a fair trial. You don't have the option of even being heard. So that does not provide for a very conducive justice system. As a result, it leads to societal imbalance and discrimination. So next slide, please. In the IT Act, we do have provisions. So we have sections 66E, D, 67, and 67A. And we have provisions relating to voyeurism and dissemination of obscene content without the consent of the person involved. So that can be used, of course, in AI-generated deepfakes. If someone has morphed a video of yours or a photograph of yours and is publishing it in a public domain, you have all the rights to move forward with your complaint to the police station under these sections. Similarly, for the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which replaced the erstwhile IPC, sections 77, 79, and 356.1. All of these can also be stretched to cover AI generated content because it includes voyeurism. You are watching somebody in an intimate movement or position, and it's in a public forum without that person's consent, which is insulting the modesty of the person. However, the BNS sections are specifically for women, while the IT Act sections can be applicable to all genders, irrespective of who it is. A person can go ahead with the IT Act provisions if they are so affected. And as for the Copyright Act, this is more towards creativity. So recently we have had 12 cases, copyright cases against OpenAI in the US, because prominent authors have brought these forward, by the way, well-known authors, because they have argued that this is under the fair use doctrine. and it's publicly available data. So you can train LLMs under that. And OpenAI also claims that it's not accessing data illegitimately, and it's explicitly avoiding accessing content that has been put behind a paywall. However, the area remains very gray, very murky still, because one could argue that using someone else's brainstorming or brainchild that has been copyrighted, whether it is publicly available or not, could be copyright infringement. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. I think we've basically covered all of this. We have spoken about legal ambiguity and everything. So, yes, for policy recommendations for India, uh, we do need a three-tiered system for AI risk classification. So, like in the European Union, we need explicit rules determining responsibilities of developers and deployers and users, as we have in the EU AI Act. We need transparency. We need to mandate that companies who use AI in their operational systems need to disclose what kind of data they're processing, what kind of data they're using to feed their LLMs and their data sets. And we also need to investigate algorithm enabled crimes and establish a proper framework for that. And the last point is very interesting, regulatory sandboxes. So, a regulatory sandbox is a controlled environment established to understand the opportunities and risks associated with an AI system or a product. So, it's basically like, you know how guinea pigs are there in laboratories, right? So it's like a laboratory for AI systems to test what efficacies are required to keep it safe and yet innovative. So those are also the need of the hour. This is all part of the EU AI Act. They have made a very comprehensive act all around this. And just as the DPDPA has been brought in and Indianized, we need an Indianized version of the same as well. Next slide, please. Next slide here. So I've already spoken about all of these, and the UK ICO guidelines are important. Please do look them up. I believe the UK government had also created a fairness innovation challenge in 2023, wherein companies could apply for about £400,000 to fund innovative solutions to tackle bias and discrimination in AI systems. So this model would be trained on anonymized records of more than 1 million patients of the NHS, which is the National Health System of the UK, to predict possible health outcomes. And there was also a call for open use cases where applicants could propose new solutions to tackle discrimination in their models, such as building new law enforcement AI tools or impartial systems to help sift through suitable candidates for employment. Next slide, please. I think we've mostly covered this as well. We have. And yes, for transparency. So there, of course, is a need for human oversight. It's a very pernicious issue that the European Union as well as Australia have accounted for. For example, Article 14, I believe, of the EU AI Act states that high-risk systems, AI systems, should be designed and developed in a manner that they can be effectively overseen by human beings while in use. So it would help minimizing the risks posed to the health, safety, or fundamental rights of all the individuals in the event of potential misuse of such a system. The oversight measures in question should be commensurate to the level of risk, autonomy, and context of use. And they should be built into the said AI system by the provider before being introduced into the market. because prevention is obviously better than cure. So it's better to have it inbuilt in the system rather than having an issue and then going ahead and fixing it. And so that's the responsibility of the developer or the provider. The deployer, who is the person who puts these things into use, must enable the people providing human oversight to understand the capacities and limitations of the high risk AI system. They must remain aware of the possible tendency of automatically relying on the output produced by a high risk AI system. So we have ChatGPT 5 now, and while they do say that it's increased its capabilities, it has the ability to think now, as a result of which it can provide more accurate answers. Even so, you still have them have chat GPT providing hallucinations for answers. Oftentimes, it's not able to still provide the correct case laws. And I speak from personal experience. You ask it for a specific case law, and it might or might not give you the correct answer. You would have to cross check every time. So there remains the tendency of being complacent. Ki matlab, you've inputted this question and it gave you an answer, and that's the done deal. No, you have to go back and you have to check that answer. You have to verify it for yourself. You can't automatically rely on it. That's also something that's been emphasized upon by the Kerala High Court judgment, as I mentioned earlier. And you must also be able to correctly interpret the high risk system's output, taking into account the interpretation tools and methods available. If you are unable to explain it or interpret it, in that case, you should not be using such an AI system. That is mandated both in the UK and the EU guidelines. The Australian government also has released a set of model contractual clauses that have been optimized for both public and the private sector using AI systems. So these clauses envision a consistent legal framework encapsulating principles ethical use of AI, whether these services are being procured, embedded, or developed in conjunction with external consultants. So these principles are again more or less on the same lines as the European Union. You need to have human oversight. You need to be able to explain how the system works. The system must be transparent to those who are using it or who are customers. And there, of course, must be standards of privacy and security. And in case of a breach, you must inform the individuals affected within 72 hours. Next slide, please. Next slide. I think you can go ahead. And yes, we've covered all of this. So, yeah. So, basically, to sum it up, I would say that we need a balancing act in India. We need to be pushing forward innovation, but we also need regulations in place because innovation without any sort of restraint is only going to cause harm in the near future, as we can see, as is happening in the US and in China. We need language and literacy considerations. So, not everyone is at the same level of understanding or comprehension. You are always going to have a large chunk of the population that is not going to be aware of the positive or the adverse effects of AI on their lives, even though it's all around them. It's all around us nowadays. You can't escape it, really. So we need to have accessibility. We need to translate these things into different languages to make the general masses and the general population understand the impact of AI on their lives. And as for startups, we need to be encouraging and we need to foster their compliance because all of this is not easy to put into motion. It's not easy to implement. You can bring in as many regulations as you want, but it's not going to be easy for startups to comply with all of them because that also costs money and time and expertise. So, financial aid and grants for that would also be very helpful. As for the European Union and the United States, they have their own set of issues, but since they already have different frameworks in place, I think they're many steps ahead of us that way. So their problems are very different. And again, if anyone has been following the news, recently Trump had proposed a 10-year moratorium on any AI regulation at all in the entirety of the United States. Thankfully, that part of the bill did not go through. But that kind of moratorium would be immensely detrimental because, in the absence of regulation, you're just going to have corporations who grow unchecked and untrammeled by any sort of restraint or consideration for people's personal data and safety, amongst other things. Next slide, please. Yes, and as for different sectors, so the US has the HIPAA, which takes care of their healthcare information. They have their own privacy and security rules as for that. In India, we do not really have regulations for that in place. We need more transparency since AI is also being used in predictive diagnosis. We need transparency in training data sets. We need people to know whether their data, their personal data, and this is sensitive personal information, by the way, health, anything about your health, sexual orientation, gender, all of this, if it is being used for a data set, if it is being used to train a model to diagnose something, you have the right to know about it. Furthermore, in finance, we need to cut down on predatory lending frameworks. So there are a lot of financial companies. I'm sure some of us have, at some point or the other, received messages saying that, oh, you have been selected for a loan and of so and so amount. Click on this link to redeem it. And one wonders where they're getting that kind of information from. It's because people are harvesting your data from different sites that you go to and they're selling it to these companies. And as a result, so many unknown entities have your contact information, which should not be as freely available. So, who knows what kind of information, your financial information, your bank accounts, where you live, your address, your Aadhaar, all of this can be in the public domain and you would not even know till a scam knocks on your door. So we need regulations in that aspect as well. For law enforcement, I've already mentioned that while we have different AI systems, we have the traffic signals, we have profiling tools. If there is prejudice inbuilt into those tools, it's going to be detrimental for the population at large, and it serves no purpose other than to heighten already existing societal biases. Next slide, please. I think this has been covered. Yeah. So, to conclude, I just want to say that regulation is not going to be restrictive of innovation. Really, it's more of a check on the unregulated power of corporations, and it's more of a boost to people being aware about their rights, about their personal data, and where it is going and where it is being used. So that kind of regulation helps to build trust and foster trust in the general public, in the system, in the justice system, in the way things should work. And we're a very diverse population. We have people of all religions, all castes, different cultures, and we need a regulation that's tailored to our context. So while I am in favor of using big chunks of the European Union laws, you cannot lift it up exactly as it is and use it in our context because our context is very different. We have an enormous population. I think our population would probably be the equivalent of maybe 4 or 5 European countries. So you can't expect a one size fits all approach here. And we need a collaboration between the government, different industries, and academics as well, because we need a three-pronged approach to ensure that we are adapting to all kinds of situations and not just restricting ourselves to one point of view. I think that's it from my side. Does anyone have any questions?
Good evening, ma'am. I have
Good
one
evening,
question,
Ayushi. Yeah.
ma'am. Ma'am, as you told that AI does not work properly, as we seen in many examples in India too, that for example, someone creates a picture with the help of AI, or some health professionals also misuse the technology of AI. But, ma'am, this is very important for India nowadays, because it can be used in a far much better way. So due to the lack of regulations, we can't say that AI can't be used to some extent. It is not possible that if the proper regulations are there for the AI, there they should be enforced properly, because in India many laws are legislated but they are not implemented as well, we know. So how we can is there any a suggestion from your side, for example, by including this particular topic into the academic of the students, or by spreading awareness to the general people, how we can basically implement those regulations if they are going to be made on the AI version? Thank you.
Hi, Ayushi. Thank you for your question. So basically, you're asking me about just implementation, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as I said, it needs to be a very collaborative effort. It can't be that the government passes a law regulating AI and it's just there in the air. You need people to come together. You need institutions to come together to foster that kind of collaborative spirit and ensure that at their own level, at the individual level, at the organizational level, they are incorporating facets of that law into whatever they're doing with AI. So, for example, if some firm or organization uses ChatGPT to provide tailored solutions to their clients, whatever sector it may be, you have to have the attitude of implementing it within your own organization. It starts at the grassroots level. You can't expect a law to come in and it just to be followed by everyone as a blanket regulation. You have to have people coming together individually at the organizational level. If there are hospitals, even private hospitals, in collaboration with the government, you can see how people came together during COVID, right? So, in that sense, in that vein, it has to be, people have to take accountability at the organizational level. And if you have a regulation in place that puts forth penalties, like the EU AI Act has strict penalties. I believe it's about 250,000 euros, or 3% of the annual turnover of the company, if they fail to follow any sections that have been provided in the AI Act. So, if you bring in deterrent mechanisms as well, I think that should help people to understand the importance of implementing these mechanisms. And it's a good thing for the company itself also. Na? So if you have a company that's collecting so much data, and if there are data breaches happening on a regular basis because of an AI that they're using and they're not safeguarding it, it's automatically going to bring down the reputation of the company. I think ICICI or Citibank also recently paid out a very large sum because they encountered a data breach. So I think deterrence is one, your own public reputation is one, and the safety of your customers or clients should be paramount. So these are three factors that should help in implementation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, no problem. Are there any other questions?
Ma'am, one doubt.
Yes, please go on.
Ma'am, AI related crimes are more often civil or criminal, ma'am.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand your question.
AI related cyber crimes are more often civil or criminal crimes.
I would say if you're considering deepfakes, then yes, they would fall under the criminal ambit, because that invites sections of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita as well as the IT Act. And the specific IT Act provisions that are incurred are criminal in nature. So, right now, the type of crimes that we have in India relating to AI, which are digital frauds and deep fakes and defamation, all of these are criminal in nature. So, I would state my claim on criminal right now.
Okay, ma'am. That means it's more of punishment, not compensation, no, ma'am.
We do have compensation also. I suppose you could count defamation in that in some regard. But yes, right now, for now, it's more punishment and deterrence based that way.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, since we don't have a specific act that speaks about compensation as such, all these things are mostly covered under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita or the IT Act or the Copyright Act, if that would be applicable as well. Any other doubts or questions?
If anyone has any question, please raise your hands.
Ma'am, I have one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, you told through the presentation that there is a role of an intermediaries also into the theft of data by using the AI. So how can we prevent those things by the end of intermediaries into this particular AI era, where even in every sector now AI is going to be used, whether in healthcare, whether whether in education institutions, and in everywhere.
So, Ayushi, thank you for your question. As far as I can recall, there was a Government of India notification or a press release to this effect, where they said that every intermediary and platform, social media platform, should ensure that the use of AI or LLMs does not permit users to host, display, upload, or modify any unlawful content as may be violative of any provision of the IT Act and other laws. And it should also ensure that the computer resource through AI does not permit any bias or discrimination or threaten the integrity of the electoral process. And otherwise, also, so Section 79 speaks of the safe harbor provision. And the safe harbor provision is mainly for significant social media intermediaries. So, when we speak about significant social media intermediaries, we mainly mean Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of these big companies. So, therein, the company can avoid liability if it takes down the AI generated content at the first instance of being asked to do so. So, for example, if there's some misinformation floating around in the form of a photograph or a video that's been AI generated, and if the government flags that content and says, please take this down from your platform, it's spreading misinformation. And if the platform complies with that, then it can avail of the safe harbor. It will not be held liable for disseminating that content because it's not generated that content per se, but such content is still floating around on the platform. So in that case, it can avoid liability. But if it fails to do so, or if it further boosts some content for more engagement or more views or more traction, in that case, it will be held liable.
Okay, so since we have two more sessions today, so let's draw curtains on today's session. It's time to pause and extend our deepest gratitude. First, a heartfelt thank you to our esteemed speaker, ma'am, for not just sharing legal concepts, but for opening our eyes to the complex realities of artificial intelligence, its legal implications, and the urgent need for balanced regulation. The way you broke down the topic, combined the real world cases, and practical guidance made this session both deeply insightful and highly relevant. We truly value your time, expertise, and unwavering commitment to public awareness. Next, I want to express my gratitude to every participant who joined us today, whether you are a student, a professional, or simply someone curious to understand the intersection of technology, law, and ethics. Your active participation is what makes this discussion like these truly meaningful. Awareness is not just something we acquire, it's something we share. By being here, you are becoming art of the change we need to in our digital world. A special thank you to the organizing team from Project CyberShield of Naksh Foundation and our collaborators, the Rotary Club of Young Visionaries, especially the volunteers and coordinators working tirelessly behind the scenes. From planning and outreach to technical setup and smooth moderation, your dedication made this possible. Before we close, a quick reminder to please fill our feedback form. It's mandatory, but more importantly, it helps us improve and bring you even more impactful sessions in future. And for those who want to keep the learning going, another session is currently underway. You're welcome to join and be part of that conversation as well. Once again, thank you for being here. Let's carry forward what we have learned, share it widely, and remain vigilant in a rapidly evolving world. Take care, stay informed, and we look forward to seeing you in our next sessions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rishabh and Rashi and Sakshi for organizing this event. We are all very grateful to you. And I hope this session was informative for everyone involved.
Thank you so much, man.
No problem. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, ma'am.
Bye bye.